Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Final Fantasy Bestiary. This series is dedicated towards discovering the history and lore behind Final Fantasy's most iconic creatures and characters. This episode, we are going to take a look at one of Final Fantasy's less common but still iconic summons, Arc. Unlike a lot of our other Bestiary nominees, Arc's history within the series itself is quite limited. However, with the recent addition of this summon/boss to Final Fantasy XIV, this was a request I've been receiving quite a bit. Arc is seen in all instances as an airship capable of transforming into a mecha, akin to that of the Transformers. In his airship form, he is usually armed with his primary cannon and a few propeller blade attacks. Once transformed into a mecha, he can still use these attacks, but also gains access to a number of other deadly abilities in his arsenal, such as a tracking laser comboed with missiles that he can fire from his body. In terms of his real-life history, his name, Arc, is likely a direct biblical reference to that of Noah, who built an ark to save pairs of animals from a great flood by God's command. He also likely draws some inspiration of the Japanese concept of black ships, Western ships that found their way into Japan during the Edo period between the 16th and 19th centuries. However, there is one more reference that was lost upon most of us until Arc's recent resurgence in the series. Arc's design himself is based off of the 1986 video game developed by Square called Cruise Chaser Blasty, with the name Cruise Chaser being the Japanese term for what we would consider an Arc. In his mecha form, he is nearly identical to Blasty, especially the large cannon over his shoulder. It's interesting to note that Cruise Chaser Blasty's 1986 release date is actually 1 year earlier than the first ever Final Fantasy game was released in 1987. As for Arc appearing in Final Fantasy games, he makes his initial appearance in Final Fantasy IX, both as a boss and a summon. Initially, Arc is encountered guarding the Gulug Stone inside Olive. In this instance, he is only encountered in his airship form, where he utilizes one of his signature attacks, Photon, which drops a random party member down to 1 HP. Once defeated here, Arc is not mentioned for the rest of the game, though he is obtainable as a summonable Eidolon. After defeating Arc, you obtain what is known as a Pumice Piece. Obtaining one more of these from either chocobo digging or by stealing from the game's ultimate super boss, Ozma, will allow you to synthesize a pumice once you've reached and defeated Hades. With the pumice, Garnet can learn to summon Arc. The pumice itself also drops from Ozma himself, making the stealing of pumice pieces from him only necessary if one wishes to use them as equipment for your party members. When Garnet summons him, he first appears in his airship form before transforming into the mecha that we see most of the time, and can utilize the ultimate attack, Eternal Darkness, a dark elemental attack powered up further by having as many Lapis Lazulis in your inventory as possible. Now for some Final Fantasy IX related Arc history. Arc himself is a summon that originates from the planet Terra, the planet causing the majority of the conflict in the game. He is likely their ultimate protector or is a manifestation of their memories, which is likely considering the nature of the Terrans and how they've survived all this time. During his summon animation, you can even see him traveling down from the red moon of Terra. He is also likely the equivalent to Terra that Alexander is to Gaia, the planet at which the majority of the game takes place. They even share some similarities and some important differences. They both are mechanical fortresses, though one on the ground and one in the sky, and they do tend to oppose each other in their themes, which is fair considering how Terra and Gaia oppose each other in the game. One of the most major distinctions is his ultimate attack, Eternal Darkness, which is pretty much the opposite of Divine Judgment in both element and theme. To further that point, in Japanese, Eternal Darkness is actually called Dark Fate, which definitely rings with more opposition to Alexander. Final fun fact of Final Fantasy IX, Arc's summon animation is one of the longest in the entire series, taking a whopping 1 minute and 46 seconds for the entire animation, and it doesn't even break the damage limit. For reference, Knights of the Round has a 1 minute and 23 second animation, and this is the one that people tend to think is the longest. But actually, compared to a lot of them in that series, 7, 8, 9, and 10, which have some of the longest summons in the game, Knights of the Round is actually considerably short compared to some of the other games. A good example is the unboosted Eden, which is the shortened version, which sits at 1 minute and 29 seconds. Sephiroth's Supernova attack takes even over 2 minutes and is the longest attack of the entire series. Now, while Arc's does appear quite long in comparison to unboosted Eden and Knights of the Round, Eden's boosted animation and the total time it takes to summon the Maga Sisters and use their overdrive in Final Fantasy X both trump Arc's summon animation, but it's still incredibly long. Now, Final Fantasy IX was Arc's only appearance in a major Final Fantasy title up until recently, when he made a reappearance in the MMO Final Fantasy XIV as a goblin-created boss within Alexander. Now, within this boss are a ton of references to Cruise Chaser Blasty, his history as an Ark, and his history in Final Fantasy IX. For one, he has fought inside of Alexander, who we just discussed as being his potential opposite in Final Fantasy IX. His name in Final Fantasy XIV is also not Ark, but instead Cruise Chaser, an obvious reference to Cruise Chaser Blasty. His goblin nickname that he is given is even called Blasty in Final Fantasy XIV, and one of his attacks uses Blasty in the title. In terms of combat in Final Fantasy XIV, Ark utilizes pretty much every move he used as both a summon and a boss in Final Fantasy IX. Photon reduces one or several party members' HP to 1. Propeller Wind, which he uses in his airship form in Final Fantasy IX, appears as an attack that inflicts confusion, something I believe it did in Final Fantasy IX as well. Optimal Sight replicates the tracking laser from his summon animation before hitting with the same missiles. At one point, he transforms into an airship and allows players to avoid his laser attack by riding on his back. And finally, he uses Eternal Darkness, but only after the players have had a chance to destroy the 4 Lapis Lazulis, the same gem that powered the attack in Final Fantasy IX. It's also a more subtle reference, and this isn't in combat, but Alexander serves as an Ark for the goblins, their mobile utopia through which they can rule the world. With this in mind, one might say Ark himself, being the second to last boss inside of the Alexander raid, is symbolic to the goblins' vision of Alexander. Of course, Ark has made minor appearances in tons of other Square Enix games, things like the card game and Record Keeper. He's, to me, one of the most memorable summons, but is oddly underappreciated. Hopefully, we'll be seeing more of him soon. And that's a wrap for this episode of Final Fantasy Bestiary. Before we exit this, I would like to say thank you to those of you who contributed on Patreon for my YouTube channel to help encourage the return of this series. I'll do my best to get these out to you as frequently as possible, so that way you know that your Patreon dollars are going to the best. If you'd like to support the Patreon, we are trying to set goals for even more content on the YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out, though remember, it's entirely optional. I'll still be producing all of my content for free on YouTube, and you won't have to pay in order to view any of my videos. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for more Final Fantasy Bestiary. Until next time, everyone, take care.